Welcome to week 5 of Everyday Word Bible Study that we're going through. If you remember, after week 4, we ended with a cliffhanger. Well, let me resolve that first. First, Judah does not take the place of Benjamin. Benjamin lives, and Jacob sees all of his family again. But before we get into the text, remember, I always say, hey, here's my email. Please send me questions. I'd be glad to answer them. So a couple of questions that came by email. First was this: why does God seem to allow people to have many more wives back in the Old Testament when today it is a sin? Well, today it's a sin only because of the fourth commandment. Let me explain. Look in the Bible and tell me a passage where having more than one wife, polygamy, is condemned by God. You won't find it. In the New Testament, you do have the command of pastors. They are to be the husband of only one wife. But if you're not a pastor, it remains silent. Now, having said that, look at all the people that had multiple wives in the Old Testament, the people we've been looking at, Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. Did it work out well for them? No, it really didn't. So although it's not expressly condemned, at the same time, you go, it's probably not a good idea. Back to the fourth commandment. Honor your father and mother, all authority. Why is it a sin today in America to have more than one wife? Because it is against the law. All 50 states that regulate marriage have a law against polygamy. In fact, the territory of Utah used to allow polygamy until they went to join the union, and that was one of the conditions, is if you're going to join the union, you can't have polygamy. And so all the different states say that you can only be the husband of one wife. Also, because of English law, you cannot marry your brother or your sister or your first cousin. Used to be intermarriage was very common in the royalty in England until they started passing genetic diseases along, and they finally caught on and said, this isn't a good thing. And so therefore, again, most states, not all, but most states say you can't marry your first cousin, biological first cousin either. All right, let's get back into our text. So we have the 11 brothers. They're in Egypt. They're in front of the Egyptian ruler. See, they brought Benjamin back. They're reunited with Simeon. They have a big meal, and everything is great. Except for Joseph, who's overcome with emotion. Here is his brothers, and you can imagine, not only the 10, but he hasn't seen his little brother Benjamin for a long, long time. And now he's a grown man. And he begins to weep, and he runs out, and he controls himself. He comes back into the party, and then he orders all the servants to leave. Leave me with just these Israelites. And once the doors are closed, he reveals to them, I am your brother Joseph. At first, they don't believe him, but as they begin to talk and more, they realize this is Joseph. And what is their first thought? Uh-oh. Do you remember the last time we saw Joseph? Yeah, we threw him in the well and then we sold him for 30 shekels. And yet, Joseph reassures them. It's okay. God sent me to Egypt to save many lives. It is fine. But this famine, it's only in the second year and it's going to last another 5. If you think things are bad now, they're about to get a whole lot worse. But here's my plan. Go back to our father and have him come, and I will settle you in Egypt, and you'll have plenty of food, and I will take care of you. And so they do that plan. And when he sends them out, he gives them all new clothes, a kind of a present, a going away present. There you go. You have new clothes, except for Benjamin, who gets 5 pairs of new clothes and 300 shekels. Why does he treat Benjamin differently? One, I think it was to see what the other brothers would do to react. Have they really repented of their sin? But also remember, they are all half-brothers. Benjamin is his only true brother, in the sense of having the same mother and father. For his mother was Rachel, and Rachel died giving birth to Benjamin, and so he showers extra praise upon Benjamin, and he sends them back. At first, Jacob is overjoyed, although in disbelief at first, that Joseph is alive. And the idea of moving to Egypt, well, maybe. a little reluctant, but eventually he is persuaded. And Pharaoh had sent a whole bunch of servants and a whole bunch of wagons to make the travel easy. And as they're traveling to Beersheba, remember that was a place where God came to him, Jacob's ladder, the angels going up and down, and God gave him the covenant promise. Well, he comes to him again in Beersheba, and he says, Jacob, it's okay. Go to Egypt. This is my plan. So they go to Egypt. And you have a great family reunion. Joseph gets to see his father again. His father gets to see Joseph. You see this wonderful family reunion, and they're all together, and he gives them this advice, which is true. He says, tell them that you are shepherds. And so they are. We're shepherds. We have come here. Now in Egypt, there's a caste system, and shepherds were way down here, very low end. So there was no threat to Pharaoh or to any of the elite. Instead, they go to the land of Goshen, the northeast corner of Egypt in the Nile Delta, and there they settle. And they can raise their sheep, and they can have a good, peaceful time. So there were about 70 family members that came, but you got to think of something. Abraham was a wealthy man. When he goes and rescues Lot, he is able to raise an army of over 300 from his own household. And Jacob is just as wealthy. So yeah, 70 family members came, and probably several hundred of servants that came as well, and thousands of livestock. And they all come and they settle in Goshen. Again, the famine's going on, but no problem. Joseph's in charge, so there's plenty of food, and there they dwell. And there Pharaoh comes and meets Jacob, and Jacob blesses Pharaoh. Did you catch that? Pharaoh's the king. He's the top. It's the top person who blesses the inferior. And yet Jacob blesses Pharaoh. Jacob is the representative of the true God. And he recognizes this, and Pharaoh allows himself to receive the blessing of Jacob's God. And it's a good thing. So we continue on. They settle in Goshen, things go on well, everything's going fine. 13-year passes, and then Jacob's health begins to deteriorate. It's time to make his last arrangements before his death. First, Joseph comes and brings Manasseh and Ephraim, his two sons. For the first sign, Jacob meets his grandchildren. It was joyous. Yet he can't see them because he's blind, but they bring him to the bedside. They both have their hands there, and he's about to give the blessing. And so they place their hands upon him. And once they do, he places hands upon Manasseh and upon Ephraim, the right hand being the greater blessing, the left hand being the lesser, because Manasseh is the oldest and Ephraim is the youngest one. And suddenly, right before the blessing, Jacob goes like this, and he blesses them. But wait a minute. He gives the greater blessing to Ephraim and the lesser blessing to Manasseh. Well, Joseph is a little disconcerted by this and asks, and Jacob explains. The lesser, Ephraim, will rule over the greater. Manasseh, who is older, his tribe and his lineage will be less than Ephraim, who will have a greater history. Sound familiar? Yeah, you remember that Jacob and Esau thing, and how Jacob, who is the younger, and he takes the birthright, and he takes the blessing? He passes that on with Manasseh and Ephraim. But an interesting thing happens. He makes Ephraim and Manasseh equal to his sons. Listen to what he says. He says to them, let my name be carried on in the name of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude. Well, what is this going to mean? We'll come to that in a minute. After Ephraim and Manasseh are blessed, then he calls all of his children in. And he's going to do the final blessing for them as well. Now, when you're that old, 147, when you're about to die and meet your maker, you can say whatever you want. And at the end, you usually did. Blessings and curses. And so as he goes through the different brothers, that's exactly what happens. Some receive blessings. Some actually receive curses. The first and the oldest is Reuben. And when he blesses Reuben, he takes away everything the firstborn should have. Why? Because Reuben had had incest with Bilhah, Jacob's wife. Remember, you had that all those different concubines. You had the Leah and Rachel and Zipporah and Bilhah, and Reuben, when he got older, had incest with her. And so he says, "Cursed are you. Taken away is all your rights. The priesthood would have gone to you is now going to go to Levi, and the kingdom that would have been yours is now going to go to Judah." So Reuben doesn't get really anything when he is blessed by Jacob. Now you move down to Simeon and Levi. They also are cursed for their violence. Remember, they killed the inhabitants of Shechem. Dinah, their sister, had been raped, and then he wanted to marry him and make it right. And they said, if you do, you have to be circumcised. And he waited till the whole town was circumcised. And then they attacked the town and killed everybody. Because of your violence, you receive cursings, not blessing. Then we come to Judah. Judah receives a great blessing. The scepter will not depart from Judah. You have images of war and peace. From Judah would come the kings, and they would have times of war and peace, but they would be blessed. And these would be the rulers of Israel. Oh, by the way, just kind of foreshadowing a little bit, who is the Lion of Judah? Yep, that's Jesus. Jesus would come from the tribe of Judah. And of his kingdom, there would be no end. We move on to Zebulun. Just a very simple one. They're going to live by the sea. They're going to be sailors. And they're going to prosper. Issachar, they're going to be shepherds, but rather than prosper, they're going to fall into servitude. Dan, they're going to become judges and sly warriors. Probably the most famous from the tribe of Dan is Samson. Gad, frequently raided. Things aren't going to go well for your tribe. They're going to be one of the border tribes. Asher, just the opposite. You're going to eat well. You're going to live on fertile land. Things will go well for you. Naphtali will experience freedom. It will bear good fruit. And Joseph, you came over great adversity. You became great, and you were set apart from your brothers. Now let's just pause right here for 1 second. If you look and you remember your Sunday school or at your day school and had to memorize the 12 tribes of Israel, do you remember the tribe of Joseph? Nope. There is not a tribe of Joseph. Why? He doesn't receive a tribe. His two sons do. The tribe of Manasseh and Ephraim. All right, let's do simple math. So, you take Joseph out, you add his two sons, you had 12 sons, and now you have 13 tribes. Wait a minute, I thought there were the 12 tribes of Israel. There are. But there is a 13th. That is Levi. If you remember, after the Passover, the tribe of Levi are set apart. They are going to become the priests. They're going to be the ones that have the temple. And so they're given cities and not land. And so when we talk about the 12 tribes of Israel, we talk about the 12 tribes that received land. Joseph was taken out, and Levi are taken out. Manasseh and Ephraim are brought in, and there are the 12 tribes of Israel. Jacob dies. He's embalmed. It takes a 40-day process. And then he's taken back to Mamre to be buried. Now, who's buried in Mamre? Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, and Leah are all buried in Mamre, and there is where he wants to be buried as well. You notice one exception? Joseph's mom, Rachel, is not buried there. She's buried in Bethlehem because she died in childbirth, and they were there, and that's where her burial site is. So, now we leave the one and we go to the many. As we go from Genesis to Exodus, suddenly there's about 400 years that are there. So we go from the one, Jacob's family, and all those people, And now we're going to have a great nation. Now think about this. 430 years that the nation is going to grow. The United States in 2026 is going to be celebrating its 275th birthday. We're still young. We will still have about another 150 years to go to match the time between Genesis and Exodus. Now we see things have changed. They've lived in Goshen for a while. God has prospered them. They're becoming a great nation, lots of people, and suddenly Pharaoh forgets the history. Why are these people here? Joseph is forgotten. And now they look at these people as foreigners living in their land and a group of people that, you know what? If we ever fought a war, would they fight on our side or would they join the enemy? And so they begin to treat them harshly. Eventually, they lead them in to a place where, again, a place where God is going to allow them to suffer, but he's going to lead to the great deliverance. There's a phrase I want to read here. It's from Exodus chapter 1. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them. That thus they multiply, and if war breaks out, they join our enemies and fight against us and escape from the land. So they get advice. And there's a rabbinical tradition that the two people, Janus and Jambres, are the two that give this advice. That rabbinical tradition is mentioned in 2 Timothy when it talks about Moses contending against these two advisors. So they begin to treat them shrewdly. First, they work harder, they enslave them, and it makes no difference. God still blesses them. Then they talk to the midwives. Hey, kill all the males. If a male is born, you're to expose it, let the males die. The midwives secretly don't do what Pharaoh says. And guess what? They continue to multiply. God is with them. If God is with you, you are going to prosper. It's just the way it is. So, now we come to Moses. Moses is born of a Levite father and a Levite mother. What does that make him? The tribe that's going to become the priests. In fact, we're going to see his brother Aaron will become the first high priest. So, Moses is born and he's supposed to be killed, but he doesn't, and they try to hide him. But kids, when they get to a certain age, they like to cry, and they like to scream, and they like to make a lot of noise. And this is what was happening. So, we can't keep him quiet anymore. They make a basket, and they take him down to the Nile, and they put him in the Nile to hide him there. They had Miriam, Moses' sister, watch over. And lo and behold, who comes down to bathe at just the time that Moses is in his basket? Again, I don't believe in luck. I call it divine coincidence. God arranged this meeting. Guess what? Pharaoh's daughter discovers Moses. And here is a cute baby, and who can refuse a great baby? So she's going to take him as his own. Miriam comes forth and says, hey, do you need someone to be a wet nurse for the baby? Yeah, I know somebody. And go gets her mom. So Moses' mom actually gets paid to help raise Moses until he's at age where he is weaned and can go and live in Pharaoh's house. And that's what happens. He goes and he lives in Pharaoh's house, and he's raised as a prince, as one of the royal, one of those royal people that is associated with Pharaoh. But apparently he still has contact with his parents, and apparently he gets a sense of right and wrong. For we see that he goes out one day and he sees an Egyptian beating one of the Hebrew slaves. And he gets mad. And he goes and confronts him, and that confrontation leads to a fight, and he kills the Egyptian. He looks around. No one see me. He hides the body. Okay, I'm good. The next day, he goes out, and he sees two Hebrews arguing with each other. Hey, you're brothers. Why are you doing this? And the response to him is, are you going to kill us like the Egyptian? maybe there were people watching when he killed the Egyptian. And maybe my stepdad, the Pharaoh, is going to find out, and that's not going to bode well for me, so he flees to Midian. And there he comes upon a well, and he's there at the well, and he sees some girls coming in, going to water their flock, and the shepherds come and drive them off because they're going to water their sheep first. And Moses, against a sense of right and wrong, confronts them and says, hey, they were here first. Let them go first. And the ladies get to drink of their sheep, and they go back home, and they tell their father, hey, guess what? This guy came, and we're here early because he let us allow the sheep to drink because he ran off the shepherds. And the father goes, well, where is this guy? Back at the well? Well, go get him. And he comes, and he eats, and he dines, and you know the rest of the story. He begins working for him, and Zipporah, his daughter, Jethro's daughter, becomes his wife, and he begins a new life. And there he is, just being a shepherd, minding his own business, tending his father-in-law's sheep, when he sees something strange. Look over there, there's a bush that's burning, but it's not being consumed. And so, he goes over to see what's going on. As he gets near, suddenly he hears the voice of God saying, take off your sandals, for the place where you are on is holy ground. Well, it's holy ground because God's presence is there, and your sandals were a sign of honor. When you walked in the house, you took them off to honor the person that was there. What was on your feet was unclean. So take off your shoes to show honor to God. And then God talks to him. I have a plan. I have heard the people complaining in Egypt, and I am going to deliver them. Just wait. And guess what? You're going to be the one that's going to do it for me. Well, Moses is not real convinced. In fact, he begins to give reason after reason why I'm not the one. First he says, who am I? I'm a lowly shepherd. No one's going to listen to me. God's response, I am with you. Then it was, well, when they ask you who it is that I'm sending you, who should I say? I'm coming kind of here blind. Well, tell them I am God. Again, I am became God's personal name, Yahweh. I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Tell them this is the God that they have been praying to, and this is the God that's going to deliver them. Yeah, but I might tell them that, but they're not going to believe me. Again, who am I? Don't worry. I will go with you. And you know what? To show you this, I'll give you a couple signs. First, take your staff, throw it down. Moses does, and it turns into a snake. Now, pick it up. And he picks it up by the tail and pops back into his staff. Now, put your hand into your jacket. Pull it out. It becomes full of leprosy. Put it back in. Pull it out. It's cured. And if that doesn't convince them, go take water from the Nile, and as you pour it out, it turned to blood. These are signs that you can do to show them that I am with you. Yeah, God, but I'm not a very good speaker. Surely, I can't carry this off. Now just remember, he was trained at the best schools in Egypt, but I'm not a very good speaker. Don't worry, God says, I will give you the words. After all of that, Moses says, I'm going to take a pass. Please send somebody else. At that, God gets a little angry. You're the chosen one. I'm sending you, but I'm going to help you. I will have your brother Aaron be your spokesman. And he sends them. And so Moses goes. He meets Aaron in the wilderness. He tells them all the things that had happened. And then, okay, they get together, the elders, and Moses and Aaron talk to the elders of Israel. They perform the signs that God had done, the staff and the hand and the blood. And guess what? They believe. Yes, Moses, you'll be the one. You'll be the one to deliver us. Now, you know the rest of the story, but we're not there quite yet. I want to leave you with these words, though. As we were looking through Scripture, these are some of the wonderful words. After Jacob dies, once again, Joseph's brothers begin to wonder, okay, Dad's dead. Is this the time he's going to get his revenge? And Joseph speaks these wonderful words. They're found from Genesis chapter 50. But Joseph said to them, do not fear, for am I in the place of God? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive, as they are today. So do not fear. I will provide for you and your little ones. Thus he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. When people treat us with disrespect, when they do all kinds of harmful things, it is good to remember Romans 8:28. God truly does work all things together for good. You meant it for evil. God means it for good. And he's going to work through even the evil things in this life to bring about his plans and the salvation of many people. So once again, if you have any questions, feel free to give me an email and we'll answer them in this next video. May the Lord be with you and bless you this day.